It's time for me to start to leverage the fact that I have all these friends that do so well in real estate. Why am I not investing my cash in these opportunities? Why am I not participating? Why am I not giving them my money and syndicating? Why don't I start to accumulate real estate? Because in 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, my estate is going to be worth so much more, because you look at all the wealthiest humans on the planet, and most of them have a pretty large real estate portfolio at the end. They're not making more of it. Everyone needs a home, and it's a good long-term return.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Reports. Today, I got the founder of EverBowl. He's a real estate investor and owns 4 other companies in the space. I got my man, Jeff Fenster. Jeff, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor and privilege. Fan of your show, fan of your office, fan of the studio.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. And dude, I'm a fan of your entire story. So much to dig in there. But before we jump into it, man, why don't you just give us an overview of what you're doing today?
Today, I'm growing EverBowl, and my goal is to make it a household name in every state in America and then take it international. But currently, we have 70 plus open and just about 450 sold that will come in 39 states. A company called WeBuild, where we build out. Not only do we build every single EverBowl, but now we build for Shaquille O'Neal, build his big chickens. We build Capriotti's and Wing Zone and any retail stretch zone, any concept, whether it's restaurants or retail that you want to scale. WeBuild is the company to talk to. Then I have Unevolved Products, where we source our own superfoods from around the world, sell them direct to consumer as well as through our restaurant chain to ensure we bring the highest quality ingredients and control our own supply chain. I use a concept called vertical integration when I scale and grow my company. So these were vertically integrated components. Unevolved concepts. So if you're out there looking for how to start your own idea and you have this amazing concept, but you're not sure how to build it, how to scale it, how to operate it, how to ideate the menu, the design, you can partner with us and we can help you do that utilizing our back house and infrastructure. And then finally, Unevolved Studios, where we just launched the Jeff Fenster show with entrepreneur.com and state-of-the-art studio with extended reality screens, so we can do a bunch of content and expand.
Yeah, I'm excited to go up to your studio and check it out. You said you dropped 200 and how much on it?
Yeah, it was about 275.
Dude, I got to check it out. You just had Drew Brees in there. I'm inspired because we're going to put a little bit of work into this studio here in a couple months and just kind of, make it a little bit better. But, when I went out to record with Ryan Pineda, I was inspired. So I think before we put work into this one, I gotta come up and check out yours.
You do, and you have to be a guest on the show.
Yeah,
because
I'd love to.
I think your story and what you deliver, the hits that you're going to bring, it's going to be great for my audience and great for the entire entrepreneur community. So,
dude, I'd be definitely honored to come on your show, man. So before we dig into all these other companies, I'm really intrigued by the WeBuild, but first, I want to know, how did the EverBowl, because this is the one company that most people know, how did the EverBowl come to fruition?
So I had sold a digital marketing agency with my former partner, Neil Patel, and it was 2015, and I was semi-retired at home with my wife and 2 daughters, and my wife will say, you were driving me crazy, and she needed me to take my high energy and type A personality out of the house. I was too young to be sitting around doing nothing and had too much energy. So she said, go do something. And I had started a few companies. I had a few successful exits, so money wasn't my problem anymore. And I no longer had to do business for money. I could do what my passion was. And outside of my family and outside of just making money and starting companies, health and wellness is my biggest passion. I think how we treat our bodies, whether it's what we eat or how we move our bodies, can directly correlate to our health. And I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, so I'm afraid of disease. And when you start to research heart disease, stroke, obesity, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, all these conditions that all of our friends and family are dealing with, you learn 80% of them are preventable or delayable with lifestyle change, which means if you eat real food and you move your body, you can prevent or delay 80% of these. That's a staggering number. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to start an acai bowl chain because I used to import acai. It's high in antioxidants. It's really good. And back in 2015 and 2016, Jamba Juice didn't have them. Nectar didn't have them. Smoothie King didn't have them. You name your place, they just weren't on menus. There was a few specialty shops, especially in Hawaii, you could get them. But here in the mainland, you just really couldn't find them. And so I was importing them and making them at home. And you'd come to my house to watch the football game and I would eat it and make you eat it and you'd like it. And then it was like this weird thing. And so I was like, I'm just going to open this restaurant in the front and I'll have an office in the back, because I was doing consulting, helping companies raise capital, a previous business of mine. I was like, okay, I'll monetize my office. I'll have a restaurant in the front. I'll figure this restaurant thing out and I'll just see what happens. And I launched EverBowl basically on the whim of helping leave my impact in the world, I guess, make it more of a passion project. Never really figured out what I was going to do when I started it. I signed a lease and figured it out from there and launched it.
Where was the first location?
Poway, California. Yeah, I went into, it was a former Smoothie King. So I was visiting an old digital marketing client in Poway, and I went to Smoothie King to get a smoothie on a Wednesday. I'll never forget, the owner was legitimately taking stuff out of the restaurant into his car. And I said, "Are you closed, sir?" And he goes, "No, I'm closing at the end of the week. I'm retiring. Why aren't you going to sell it?" He said, "I asked for too much money, and the Smoothie King brand in California just wasn't as successful." I said, "Can I have the landlord's name?" He gave me the landlord's name and number. I called her, we negotiated, and I signed a lease without even having a name or a menu, because I figured if Smoothie King was successful for 20 years here, my concept could probably do okay.
Yeah. And so at that time, were you thinking, hey, I'm going to scale this thing and do the franchise model? Or were you just thinking this is going to be a one-off store and let's just see how it goes?
I was never going to franchise. I was going to open a lot of them myself, self-funding it. I wanted to scale. I like scale. I like to grow big things. I don't like to do small things. I think small things are boring. I love momentum. I love speed. And I think it solves a lot of problems. So it was always about scale, but it was never going to be franchising. To me, that was like the word. That was the only 4-letter word I didn't want to hear, even though it's not 4 letters. Like that was the curse word. Don't franchise.
Right.
Just because I had heard so many horror stories about franchising and brands that failed because, you invite all these entrepreneurs to take ownership of your brand, and either you don't provide good support or there's winners and losers, and how does it all work? And I just didn't want to touch it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be Starbucks. I'm going to corporately own these whole things. Chipotle. Like they don't really, there's a few, Magic Johnson gets franchises, but most humans don't get a franchise of a Chipotle or a Starbucks. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it that way. And that was the original plan. And so I signed my first lease in July of 2016, opened in October of 2016. And then in 2017, I opened my second store in May and my third and fourth store in September and October. So my first year in business, I had 4. And then my next year, I opened 1 every single month and 2 in the months in the summer, just on my own corporately, never franchising. And things were going really well. And I was very happy not franchising.
What's the key to starting a juice and smoothie store without having a ton of experience in that space and being successful right out the bat?
I'm glad you asked that. So I believe experience is the most overrated prerequisite to being successful or starting a business. I think too often we wait for experience to do things and you don't get experience on the sidelines. But number 2, why do the cliche 9 out of 10 restaurants fail? Why?
Why is that?
Because 9 out of 10 restaurants are started by chefs, which means they're really good at making food. They're not really good at business. Business is the same, whether it's in real estate, restaurants, construction, payroll and HR, digital marketing, capital raising, private equity. The underlying core concept of how to run a successful business is the same. Do you make more money than do you spend? Do you understand how to organize a P&L and a pro forma and raise capital and attract customers and retain talent and train the talent and develop SOPs? And can you do this at scale and handle supply chain and logistics and marketing and all these different elements? That's all the same. It's what you do with it is different. But I'm really good at scaling businesses. So whether it's a restaurant or not, I could figure out how to make food. I could hire chefs. I can bring in culinary experts. I can reverse engineer how to make the food part taste good. Could I run the business? And I'm good at that. And so I wasn't scared about the business side. I always knew I'll adjust the menu till I've made it right.
Yeah, that's so good. The chef analogy is really good because it's similar to all these mom and pop owned businesses that are underperforming because it's more of that mom and pop mentality. And they never took the time to get educated in terms of like the entrepreneur and how you should run and operate a business. I love that analogy. And so it sounds like right out the gate, you're like, hey, I'm gonna hire the right people that know the stuff that I don't know. But from a business and entrepreneur standpoint, I'm gonna bring the same systems and processes I've used before to run your other stuff.
That's right. Yeah. I like to be the dumbest guy in the room, and I want to hire people who fill my gaps. So I know what I'm really good at, and I pride myself on being the best at it. But what I'm not good at, I don't need to compete with you. I'll hire you. Come work and join my team. Partner with me. Let's build something together. Let's bring your attributes and my attributes, and hopefully they're not identical so we can partner well. Because a lot of people make the mistake. They find people to partner with that's their best friend that they have everything in common with. They share the same skills. We're both great in sales. We're both great in being the face of the brand, but neither one of us are very good operationally. Mm-hmm. That's dangerous. We may like each other and want to go hang out and have a drink and go to the game together, but that's not good for running a business. I want you and me to see the world different. I want to say heads. I want you to say tails. Awesome. If we're both saying that, when we flip the coin and I'm saying heads, you're saying tails, we're looking at this from all the different areas and angles, 360 degrees of visibility, which allows us to plan for the things that we need to plan for. And where I might be super bullish on this because I have experience and I feel really good. And I want you to be a little passive about it. I want you to be like, hey, let's measure twice, cut once, like hold me back a little bit, force me to articulate and get you to my side. and vice versa, right? I need to push you in the areas that I need to push you. You need to push me in the areas. And so I like building teams. I think making friends and having fun are my two rules in life. Like they're my two non-negotiables. I built my entire career off my relationship capital and who I know and how many doors that opens. But that also is true in retaining talent and attracting talent. When you look at EverBowl, I can assure you, we are not where we are today, but for the incredibly remarkable team I have. Like I am standing on the shoulders here of a rock star set of people that kill it every single day and bring the same caliber that I bring and what I'm good at, they bring in what they're good at. And when you put us all together, it's a dream team.
Yeah, I agree, man. The team is everything. So with these first few locations, what was that most important key team member?
So the first person I ever hired, Ben, he was kind of like a golden retriever. So I have two rules: make friends and have fun. And I used to tell everyone, all we need to do is make friends with every single customer who walks through that door. Because if you make friends with them, they're going to love our product. They're going to come back because they enjoy the experience. We're a community restaurant in a community of people. So they're going to enjoy that interaction. And if you make a mistake, they're not going to kill you for it because they like you. They recognize that, oh no, Jeff's a good dude. He made a mistake, big deal. Like it's not a huge challenge, right? If it's just a transaction and I make a mistake, they're going to swear us off forever. So Ben, the first kid I hired, I call him a golden retriever because he was shy when he started, but then immediately he took to that exact concept and he made friends with every single person that walked through that door. He allowed me to go to the second store and he was able to stay there and be the Jeff in Poway and enabled us to grow. And from there, he also became our first franchisee. When it was time to franchise, I said, Ben, I want you to be the first franchisee. So he opened the very first franchise. We financed him and helped him do it. And he's just a rock star badass. And today he's involved in a lot of our Florida stores and still growing. And you go in my corporate office when you come up and you'll be introduced to a lot of our key employees. They started in stores 1, 2, and 3. Right out of high school or right out of college. And they're killing it today. They're just living and breathing this brand.
Yeah. With those first few stores, did you have partners? Did you have investor capital?
No. So I self-funded. I self-funded at the beginning, and then a local restaurant group here in San Diego, David Cohn Restaurant Group, had approached me and said, hey, I want to invest. I want to be part of this with you. And at that time, I had turned down all my friends and family that wanted to give me money. And I was like, no, I'm not interested. But when he finally wanted to come in and I could bring in that level of restaurant know-how, because now at this point, I think I had 7. You're starting to run a real restaurant chain. And I was making a lot of mistakes and having to pay the dummy tax. And I'm like, okay, if I get David Cohn and his group on my team, they can help me think through these challenges, understand what potholes up ahead that I don't even think about, don't even realize, like stupid stuff. Ones that I look back at today and I go, how could I have been this dumb? And I'll give you a silly example. We use clear bowls. And at the time they were 3 cents a bowl, or I could have my brand on it for 13 cents a bowl. I'm like, I'm not paying 4X to have my name on it. I'll just use clear. And the first thing he says is, do you know how many people take a picture with your bowl that you're losing out on all that advertising over 10 cents? And when he said it, I was like, I turned probably the brightest shade of red. Like, how could I be so naive? Like, I used to own a digital marketing agency, for crying out loud. Like, I know the power of marketing. And I was lost in the business. I started to just get nickel and diming myself and 7 restaurants running at the speed of light, trying to figure this all out, bringing in fresh eyes, someone who really understands it. He was able to just start to point. And so he was our first investor, and I allowed friends and family to come alongside him. And fast forward to today, we're now plenty of investors and franchised, and it's a whole different brand, whole different business. But
I love that, man. I think whenever you partner on any sort of opportunity, it's like there's got to be some sort of value exchange, If you are a busy professional and don't have time to invest in real estate, but still want to participate in the passive income and tax benefits, my team, Summers Capital, is buying a lot of boutique hotels right now. We source the deals, we renovate the properties, and we even do all the day-to-day management, making it truly hands-off for our investors. If you want to learn more to see if we can help you, go to summerscapital.com/invest to book a call with our team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show.
Because money is the easiest thing to get.
Yes.
I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars for other companies as well as my own over the years. And I can tell you, money is for a lot of entrepreneurs, they think money's the hardest thing to get. I hear about it in real estate. Like we have a lot of mutual real estate buddies, and I hear about wholesaling, and they're always afraid, well, how am I going to get the money? If you find a good deal, the money will find you. Mm-hmm. If you have a good company, the money will find you. Money wants to be part of high velocity growth companies and growth opportunities. If you have a good opportunity, I want to invest.
I agree with that concept, but I'll throw another wrinkle in there.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of real estate investors say, like, if you have the deal, the money will come. But I think the other wrinkle that I also believe in is like, you got to have the competency too. Because you could have the best deal in the world, but if you're a drug dealer living on the street, is the money going to come? I'm not going to invest that deal. So I think the competency's got to come first, and then with that's the trust. And then if you have the right deal, the money's going to come.
Yes, that's 100%. I think I took that as part of finding the right deal, because I think the competency allows you to understand that you have a good deal.
100%.
Right? Like someone like yourself who's an expert in real estate, if I come to you with what I think is a good, boutique hotel opportunity, you could look at it really quickly and go, Jeff, we're going to pass. This is not a great deal. If I come to you though and you say this is a great deal, then hopefully that means I've demonstrated some competency that maybe I learned through your education and what I've been around.
100%. But back to what you were saying, where you mentioned everyone wanted to invest with you and you kept saying no, and then the right partner came along and you were like, yes, let's do it. And he ended up teaching you a lot of things that you didn't know. And so I always say, like, man, there's got to be some sort of value exchange. I think a lot of younger up and coming real estate investors and entrepreneurs that are looking to collab, they're looking to network with folks that are above them. It's like they come to them and they're like, hey, let me pick your brain. Let me take you out to lunch. Let me take you out to coffee. I'm sure you get this all the time. It's like, dude, like, I don't go to people that are above me and present it that way. It's like I wait for the right opportunity to where I got some sort of value to provide them, and then I go in for it, And I think there's always got to be a value exchange whenever you're trying to connect or network or partner, and that's something a lot of younger people don't understand.
I mean, you nailed that. I live and breathe by that ethos. Lead with value. Mm-hmm. If I was going to call you to pick your brain because I want to learn about real estate, I'm not going to pick your brain. I'm not calling, hey, can I come take you to lunch and pick your brain? You don't know me and I have no value for you. That's just a waste of my time and yours. And it's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why that same individual, if my daughter called them and said, hey, can I come pick your brain on whatever topic and will you come to lunch with me? They'd say no. It's just not something someone's going to do, but there's different ways. Hey, I want to learn about real estate. I know you have this amazing podcast. Can I come just be a extra set of hands when you're filming, and I'll move furniture around and I'll grab drinks and coffee and just hang out in your office and do whatever task you need me to do. But when you have 5-10 minutes, maybe drop some knowledge on a deal you're working on, like help educate me. Well, at least now I'm trying to lead with value. I'm trying to offer you something you didn't have before, which is volunteer your time. Yeah. Don't ask me to volunteer my time and teach you. Do something for me and I'll do something for you, vice versa. And that's exactly what you just said.
100%, man. I think there's like 3 forms of it. So you got attention would be like a form of like value exchange. You got I would say money or information, like maybe that person is going to pay you or they have information that you're trying to seek. And then the third form would be like, we have a mutual friend that connected us. Those are probably the only 3 ways that people like have some sort of connection or value exchange. The extreme example would be Joe Rogan. The reason why Joe's able to get guys like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, presidents to come hang out with him is because he's got the attention, he's got the audience, right? And so that's a form of value exchange. And so if you don't have that, you better have money, information, or we better have a mutual friend or connection. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But anyways, man, so back to the EverBowl. How many locations did you have before you started franchising?
28.
28. And what was it that led you to like, all right, I'm going to do this franchise model?
COVID. So in 2019, Saruya Private Equity, a big private equity firm, approached us and wanted to make an investment. And they're big in the franchising space. So they used to own Jamba Juice when it was public. They sold Kahala Brands, which was like Cold Stone Creamery, Blimpie Sub, Taco Time. They sold Global Franchise Group, which is like Hot Dog on a Stick, Round Table Pizza. The founders of Yogan Frus, Pinkberry. I mean, when you look at what brands these guys are involved in, at one point, I think at their peak, they had 19,000 franchisees in 56 countries.
Wow.
Across their brands. So they approached me in 2019 and said, Jeff, we want to invest in you and your brand, and we want to help you franchise. And I said, you can invest. I'm not franchising. And long story short, they ended up investing. They gave us $3 million at a nice $30 million valuation back when we had 20. At that time, we had 18 corporate stores. So they overpaid and still invested. And I'll never forget, Aaron Saruya handed me the check that day and said, Jeff, I'm investing because your model, your business is perfect for franchising. It's vertically integrated. You have your construction arm. You have unevolved products. You have this whole thing together. I know you're going to wake up and become smart enough to franchise. You might not realize it yet, but you will smarten up. And I want to be part of the team when you do. So he agreed to my crazy terms, and we took his money and started to leverage that knowledge. And then when COVID happened on March 18th, 2020, I temporarily shut down all 28 stores, had to lay off just under 500 people. And it was the worst day ever because no one knew what was going on. That was the day one. Like everyone's like, you're shut down. So we did what we thought we were supposed to do. And at that moment,
they forced you to everyone to shut down in the food and beverage space.
They didn't force you, but it was like all the news was saying this is too dangerous. Everyone needs to shelter in place. Like this was day one, like before anyone knew even there was no vaccine. I mean, no talk of like there was no politicized anything at this moment. There was just a very scary virus that the media was saying this is everyone. Schools shut, businesses are shut, shelter in place. Only hospitals and I forgot what were they? Not emergency workers, but there was a term they used for it.
First responders? I don't know.
But it was like, anyway, the group of people that had to go to work to keep society alive.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had a meeting amongst our executive team, and most of our employees are 15 and a half to 23 years old. So we were like, okay, what's the prudent thing to do? We have young adults and older children working for us. We don't know what's going on. The safest thing to do right now is to shut down. So March 18th, we closed our doors. We reopened May 1st, and we started to do third-party delivery and store through a door, and we realized we could operate and safely and figured this whole thing out back then. But that day when we were closed, March 19th, everyone's terminated. Me and 3 of my executives got into the room, and we did what you're supposed to do in a time of crisis, which is assess and evaluate how you move forward, right? So I have this thing called my 5-minute pity party, where I act like a victim for 5 minutes. I set a timer, and I scream, I cry, I curse, I jump up and down. I do whatever I need to do emotionally to get it all out. And I did that on March 18th. But then when the 5 minutes are up, it's like, now what? Like, you can't be a victim for life. And this is where a lot of people stay. Bad things happen to us. Life knocks you down, and we stay there because we feel like a victim, and it's not fair, and life's not fair, and this isn't fair. And fair is not a real word. Like, that's not supposed to be fair. It's just the reality. So what are you going to do next? And we had this meeting and said, okay, what do we have at our disposal? And we have all this product, unevolved products. So we launched a concept called Later Bowls. We spun up a Shopify website and started delivering on March 20th, dropping bowls off at people's houses who ordered through our website from all of our 28 restaurants. And we'd go and we'd pack these frozen boxes, and I would drive it one day and my other executives would drive it the other. And that started to pick up some steam. And Drew Brees actually started, that was one of the reasons he got involved in our franchise, is because at that time he used to come in as a customer all the time. And now he couldn't. So he started ordering our food delivered to his house, and he used to send me texts of him and his kids eating our bowls at home. And we're like, wow, this really works. Let's see about scaling this. So I used my relationship capital, and I said, who do I know that can get me on QVC? Got on a QVC, and we sold out 70,000 units in 7 minutes. And all of a sudden, we're making millions of dollars a year selling product through QVC to people all over the country. And
what was that product? That was the same one that you came up with during COVID?
10 bowls in a box that were frozen, that you blend at home. And we gave you the granola and the toppings and the plastics. So it was basically like, you see them on, I'm trying to remember some of the brands. I can't off the top of my head, but Daily Harvest, I think, is one of them. Where it comes, it's almost like prep meals, but instead it's bowls.
And
right?
how long is it good for? About a week?
No, it'll stay in your freezer for over a year.
Wow.
It's frozen. So it stays frozen. You just put it in a blender, turn it on, add a liquid, and you have a bowl. You're making Later Bowls. EverBowl later, basically. And it really picked up steam. And so as we started to do that, we started to realize that we had never uttered the word franchise. And this is the end of March or beginning of April when we first got on QVC. And now we're at the middle of April. We're about to reopen our stores. And one of my guys on my team said, Jeff, look how many franchise requests are in this folder that we never touch. And we looked, and we had over 500 franchise requests in the past 4 years, with a lot of them in the last year, of people saying, hey, is this thing available for franchise? Like, we want a franchise. And so I called Aaron Saruya back, and I said, Aaron, I'm really thinking about franchising because travel restrictions, I can't go everywhere. I have all these people who are stuck at home, all these people saying, we want to open an EverBowl. All right, let's have a serious conversation. And we did, and he introduced me to his franchise attorney. We started the FDD process. I was like, I have this thing I say to every potential franchisee who ever calls, who I ever talk to. I always say, let's find a reason not to move forward. And if we get to the end and we can't, let's do it. And that's just a great way to assess any business opportunity. So I did the same thing with our internally. I said, look, we'll go the whole distance. If we find a reason not to franchise, we will, but let's see what happens. And so we went through that process. July of 2020, we decided to franchise. And so I sold the first franchise to Ben, my first employee, and we financed him. And then his brother, who worked for me, bought the second one. And then all of a sudden, we became a franchise outfit. And fast forward 3 years later, and we have 450 stores sold. And all as a result of franchising. And I called Aaron and said, you were right. I was wrong. Franchising was the way to go.
And a bunch of those are from Drew Brees.
Yeah, he's up to 150 locations in 9 states.
Wow.
He started with 5. First one went really well, so he bought 20 more, and then he bought 80 more, and then he bought another 70 or 60, however the tranches were, and his stores are all over the, Louisiana, at Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Michigan, like that whole region of Ohio, just that whole area of the country, and he's doing really well with them.
A couple of things that stick out there. I think most importantly is the fact that the pandemic dropped in, you mentioned like a lot of people play the victim mentality, the victim role. When good things happen to others, they're like, oh man, must be nice, look good for you. It could never be me. And then when bad things happen to them, they're like, man, they play the victim role. Yes. And it's like, fuck, I think that everyone in America should wake up one day at some point in their life and just have that feeling to know like they are in control of their destiny.
That's right.
They get to control what happens tomorrow. Because that's a feeling where anyone can be, if you're around the right people.
And we all need to be.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, so many entrepreneurs, and I speak to entrepreneurs mostly just because that's kind of my niche, but I laugh because the first question I ask a young entrepreneur, and I don't mean young in age, I mean young in experience,
sure,
that asks me, hey, can I pick your brain, right? Like that famous question. Or if they get some time with me, hey, can I just ask you a couple questions? Sure. I've got this business. And the first question I always ask them is, what are your core values? And I use core values and I use success formula is really what I say, but what is your success formula? What are your core values? What are you going to do when the world knocks you on your ass and you don't know what to do? What are you falling back on? What are those rules of life, rules of business? If you don't have those clearly defined, then yeah, you're subject to a lot of bad things to happen. You don't know what to do. Mine, I make friends and have fun are my first 2. Take immediate decisive action. Number 3. So COVID happened. Take immediate decisive action. Spin up something new. Number 4, change ready. The world's always changing. Be change ready. So for me to adapt when COVID hit, am I lucky that I figured it out, or was I prepared to try to find something that was going to work? Because if it didn't work doing that, I would have thought of something else, or someone on my team would have come up with something, right? So like in these moments of victimhood, in these moments of 2008 financial crisis that I worked with my first company, or the COVID black swan event, or the next black swan event. Right now we're in a high interest rate environment and inventory in real estate is really low, but there are people killing it right now because they are finding ways to make it work. And they're not saying, I bought at the top, poor me. Well, yeah, that's a bad situation. But to your point, having the clarity to know that you are in control of your outcomes, good or bad, and what happens today doesn't mean tomorrow won't be better. Like wake up with a new vigor, a new environment, and say, I'm not a victim. I'm going to be successful. It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. And I'm going to do the right things every day. And that is how you get there. And that's why everyone who's successful says, it took me 17 years to be an overnight success, right? They all say it.
Right.
Almost nobody has immediate success.
I agree.
The few that do, okay, you know what? Someone's going to have immediate success because it's just the law of probability, right? It doesn't mean it's duplicatable. What is duplicatable is everybody can be successful if they have a clear path to get there in that formula.
I agree. And often the path is not clear. It's a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you're like, okay, I know we're going to get from point A to point B, but we don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to figure it out, and there's always, things that you can't control. Like we can't control the pandemic, right? That happened. A lot of things got shut down. The high interest rate environment, like I have zero control over the Fed pushing rates, right? But what I do have control over is how we're going to react, how we're going to pivot. And a lot of times we'll even pivot because maybe we went the wrong direction. We're like, hey, let's try this. Okay, it doesn't work. Let's go this direction now. Right. And eventually you pivot and eventually you get to that point B. And I think that's the name of the game. I always say like those who pivot win in business.
Absolutely. Look at every great example, right? You look at Blockbuster. They should have been Netflix. They just should have been. And you think of Sears, or you think of Circuit City, or you think of Radio Shack, or any of those brands, they all could have been Amazon. Any of those big retailers that we all used to go to, 20 years ago, all could have been Amazon. And for those who are old enough, back, when I was in high school, the internet wasn't a thing.
Right.
And the .com era. And it was like, there were so many legacy companies that used to go, oh, we're not in the internet. It's not for us. And they're all dinosaurs and extinct right now. The world's always changing. So if you're not pivoting with the world, if you're not learning and adapting and figuring out that sometimes you try things that don't work, you didn't fail. You just found a way that didn't work. Right. I don't know if it's a true story, but there's a thing they talk about with like Thomas Edison and the light bulb. Like it took him so many tries and he found all the ways that didn't work. And then you look at what comes out of the things that don't work. I mean, Viagra, one of the highest selling drugs in the world, was not meant to be, it didn't build it for that purpose. It was they were building it as heart medication, and they found out that it didn't do that, but it did this. So they pivoted and made a gazillion dollars off Viagra, right? Or even gasoline as we know it today is a byproduct of kerosene, which, Rockefeller used to light up homes with kerosene back in the couple 100 years ago, 150 years ago. And there was no use for it then because we didn't have automobiles. So they used to throw it away. And today, no one uses kerosene, everyone uses gasoline.
That's so good.
Right? So there's just so many of these examples where if you're an entrepreneur or you're just a human being and you don't feel like you've achieved the success you want, I would strongly advise you to start really looking at your daily habits, because those habits and how you focus on and what you focus on will dictate your outcome. And it's all possible.
I just thought of something while you were talking. So, those who pivot win in business. The opposite of being willing to pivot would be someone that's very stubborn, and they're just going to go down this path and, hey, it's not working, but we're just going to keep going down this path because I don't want to pivot. So would you say that stubbornness is probably the worst character that you could possibly have in terms of success in business?
Hey guys, real quick, the only way this podcast grows is if you guys share it and review the show. So if you do find value, if you could take 2 seconds and drop a 5-star on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it would mean the world to me. But more importantly, it will help us reach new audiences and help more people build wealth through real estate investing.
Unless you have such a clear goal and it's this or nothing, and you are going to find a way, like you're going to invent the airplane and you're not going to pivot to a car. You're saying, I'm going to figure out how to fly. Unless it's so crystal clear like that, for most people, it's not. So in business, stubbornness is a dangerous game because the world will tell you, and your customers will tell you, and your clients will tell you, and your coworkers will tell you, and society will tell you when it's time to pivot.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's time.
So speaking of like juice franchises, so one of my investors, good friend of mine, he just married. I was actually at his wedding this past weekend up in Orange County. He just married the founder of Nectar Juice Bar.
Oh.
And her and her ex-husband, her name's Alexis, her and her ex-husband founded Nectar Juice Bar. Now Matt,
I know her ex-husband.
You know Alexis?
No, I know her ex-husband.
Oh, you know her ex-husband. Got it. So now Matt is marrying. They just got married last weekend. But Alexis says they're going through an exit right now. I think they have a buyer. So they're looking to sell the franchise. But now, after talking with you, I'm like, man, I'm a lot more educated on the model. So next time I see her, I'll have some good follow-up questions or conversation to talk about.
So I've spoken on a few stages with Steve, who's the other founder of Nectar. And
gotcha.
It's a good company. I don't call them a competitor. I mean, they are if you say, hey, I can only go to one place today, which one? But I look at them as helping me grow the industry. I learned this from Elon Musk. I used to think of them as a competitor, going back to not being stubborn. Elon Musk, I heard him say this about electric cars about 8 years ago. So he was asked, Elon, you have first mover advantage, but what are you going to do when all the big car companies create electric cars? And he goes, I'm not competing with the electric cars they make. I'm competing with the gas cars they make. I hope they all make electric cars. His bigger mission was to bring electric cars to the world. And my bigger mission is to bring healthy food to the world. So if Nectar's doing a good job and they're following a similar protocol of doing it right, doing the way that we agree with, I think it's awesome. And if your best friend, congratulations. I mean, I still think EverBowl's better. But if you can't go to an EverBowl, go to a Nectar. It's I go to Nectar when there's no EverBowl around.
Yeah. And I think the same thing for like real estate investing. I'm like, people are like, oh, like, why do you share all your secrets and tips? And like, don't you feel like you're creating competition for yourself? I'm like, dude, there's so much real estate out there in this world, and there's so much money out there in this world. And there's just so much opportunity. It's like, dude, everyone can win. And I can also learn from the person next to me that's doing real estate, but maybe they're buying a different asset class, or maybe they're buying the same one. I still learn. We learn from each other. Well, and that's what makes us better.
And think about anyone who's ever played a sport. Do you want to play in the highest level, or do you want to go play against people? When you're in high school, do you want to play against elementary school kids in basketball?
No,
it's not fun. I want to play people who are competitive. I want the game. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the backyard as a kid always said, 9th inning, down by 2, bases loaded, 2 outs. Like, you want that moment where you may lose, but you win. And it's true in business. Like, I want my competitors to continue to elevate the environment in my industries, because it's going to force us to get better, and we're going to push each other. I want to win in the end. I want to be number 1.
So good.
But I don't care. I want my number 2 to be close. Coke and Pepsi help each other, right? Pizza Hut and Domino's help each other. They don't hurt each other. They help. They grow. Because if you don't like everyone, you go to Nectar, cool. But you know what you're going to do when you're in some city in America and you really want that bowl and Nectar's not there, but EverBowl is? You'll come to my store as a second. It's like I used to drink Coca-Cola as a kid. If I go in and say, yeah, I'll have a Diet Coke, and they go, oh, we have Pepsi. Is that okay? I've never said no. Sure. My first choice might have been Diet Coke or Coke. I'll accept Pepsi. If your first choice is EverBowl and you'll accept Nectar or vice versa, I still win some of the time.
Yeah.
Right? And it's still good. It's less eating of the fast and fried. You're less people going to McDonald's and Taco Bell and stuff that's really bad for you. More people being a better version of themselves. Good for the entire industry.
Yeah, I agree, man. Speaking of being around people that are better than you, have you heard of Compound Lifting Club, this new gym? So it's here off of Moreno Boulevard here in Old Town. And they just opened about a year ago. And all the fitness influencers and fitness trainers like here in San Diego, they all work out there. And so about like 4 weeks ago, I decided to go over there and join. I just needed to switch it up. I was at the same gym for quite some time. But dude, it's amazing. Like everyone is in tip top shape. It's inspiring, at least for me. I go in there, I'm like the least in shape person there. But I've got the best workouts in my life there. And it's like similar to business and real estate. Like I never want to be the smartest person in the room. Same thing with fitness.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's awesome.
And so it's been cool to work out there and kind of just learn. I feel like at 38 years old, I'm just now learning about like, you know, the benefits of like lifting weights and like eating clean and like eating high protein diets and that sort of thing. And it's been fun. It's been addicting.
Yeah. A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
You show me who you hang out with and you're going to be the average of all of it. And so if you aspire to be great, be around great people, big thinkers, people who are challenging your whole mindset. Yes, it's comfortable to be the best. Everyone wants to be the best. But if I'm the best, if I'm truly the best in the room all the time, I'm not growing. People around me are growing. Yeah. I want to be around the people who are better than me in all areas of life, right? Podcasting, speaking, business, friend making, parenting, adulting. I don't care. You name it. I want to get better.
Yeah. So this company that you have, WeBuild, which is very intriguing, and that's more in the kind of build out space. You guys are doing build outs for franchises, correct?
Franchise and corporate, but anything scale.
Yeah. And it's not just for EverBowl franchisees, but it's also for other retail locations, correct?
Yes, it started for EverBowl.
Got it.
It started simply because my first EverBowl cost me $300,000 to build. And I said, that is too expensive. I want to go build 100 of these myself and I don't want to spend $30 million to do it. So why is it so expensive to build a restaurant? Like seriously, like, why is it so expensive? And so I ended up hiring this guy, Jake, who built my first store and made him the head of my WeBuild department. And I said, look, IKEA can scale furniture. Why don't we do the same thing for EverBowl? I'm building 100 of these. They're going to be the same. I own them. I'm the customer. Don't worry about sales. Don't worry about a business. Just figure out how to make this faster, more efficient, streamlined, and higher quality. And that's your mission. That's your big, hairy, audacious goal. Let me figure out how to do it. So I invested a bunch of money. It was just over $1.5 million to build out the WeBuild facility with the hope that at the end of the tunnel, we would build EverBowls cheaper. And that was kind of that was our big goal.
So initially it was $300,000 to build out
the first store.
The first store. And then you build them for how much?
Today?
Ballpark.
60.
Wow. So build out wise though, I mean, a lot of these franchisees, they are leasing the retail location from a third party landlord.
That's right.
Have there been any franchisees that come across a place, maybe a building that's for sale as well? And they're like, hey, I want to own the real estate too.
So I have some franchisees who do own their building and they just put one in. We have not yet dealt with where I was involved in the sales process. Not the McDonald's model where we own the real estate. It's just we don't, the smallest EverBowl is 400 or 500 square feet. The biggest is 1,200, 1,300 square feet. So usually these are big centers. And you think of big grocery anchored centers like in retail centers where it's a couple 100,000 square feet of retail space and we're taking 1,000. Like we're so small that the acquisition side is a little tougher.
Yeah.
For us, the best model is we get in for a low cost. We do good business. We bring EverBowl to the community. You make good money as a franchisee and you end up owning 10, 20, 30, 40 of these. And that's what we're seeing our franchisees do. They start with 1 or 2 or 3 or 5, and they seem to all want to buy more because they're doing good business. And a lot of franchisors' mistake is they don't realize that entrepreneurs, there's 2 ways to make money. You can increase top line or you can reduce bottom line. I don't need to increase top line if I save more money, right? So if I may bring in $10,000 a month and my COGS or my cost of goods, there's $5,000 a month and my spread is $5,000. Well, yeah, if I make $20,000, if I bring in $20,000, I'll make $10,000. True. But if I still only bring in 10, but my costs go from 5 to 3, I just made $7,000. So I can make more money without selling more as well. And by us reducing the cost to open an EverBowl and bringing more support to that, we can help our franchisees make more money faster.
Yeah, increases their cash on cash return as well.
Correct. And so through that process, going to WeBuild, I was in discussion with Shaq to open some EverBowls, and we went through the process, and Shaq sold half his brand to a company called Authentic Brands, which is a publicly traded company. They own Reebok and Apostle and David Beckham, and they buy brands. So they bought 50% of the Shaquille O'Neal brand and wrote Shaq a huge check. And during this long process of dealing with all the people involved in the Shaquille O'Neal brand, they ultimately said, we're not going to open EverBowls because we just launched our new concept called Big Chicken. And it's Shaq's first concept where he's the franchisor. He's not a franchisee. And I was like, well, that's great. Congratulations, Shaq. And so he said, hey, but I really loved WeBuild. Could you help me with Big Chicken? Yeah, I think I could. So he posed the question, and I said, I think I can help. And we started to explore it, and we figured it out, and we started building for Shaq. And then the aha entrepreneur moment came where we're like, we could do this for a lot of brands. And so Drew Brees, who's a franchisee of EverBowl and an investor in EverBowl, he has 5 or 6 other concepts. So he connected us with a few of those parents and the parent company, and we started doing stretch zones, and we started manufacturing stretch zone tables for stretch zones all across America. And then from there, we're talking to small sliders.
What's a stretch zone?
It's a stretching. There's actually one I saw it as I was walking to your office. There's one on the corner, but it's basically like a gym, but there's no workout. It's just stretching. So you go for a 1 hour stretch.
Got it. Yeah, I'm familiar. I was thinking you were talking about something else, but okay. There's a Stretch Lab here.
Yeah, Stretch Lab is
one of my
buddies
owns. One of my buddies has Dr. Stretch.
Okay,
he's another one here.
Yep.
In town,
so those tables,
I've never tried it, but it looks good.
Yeah, and they have these. What's really cool is they have these proprietary tables that they were making, but this was also the heart of the COVID supply chain world we lived in over the last 2.5 years, and they couldn't make them fast enough. So I said, well, let me take this challenge on. So we made them quick. We made them to high quality, and now we're making hundreds of tables for them every single quarter and bringing them to all their franchisees, and they're opening all these stores, and things are going really well. And so from there, we had the further aha moment, which is we need to scale WeBuild because we bring a unique concept to this space. Most GCs people hire don't realize you're wasting so much money. And not because GCs are bad, it's because that's just the model, right? A general contractor hires subs, marks them up 20%, and charges you. The subs, most of them find or buy your furniture and mark it up 20% before they give it to the general contractor. So you have all this markup. We manufacture everything at the base level. So I make everything for all my concepts. And then we also install it, and we get rid of all the subs in the middle and all of that extra markup. So I can pass the savings to you, franchisor, franchisee, or corporate that wants to scale. I can also inventory it all for you. So if something breaks, if this chair breaks, you don't have to hope that the store that you bought it from may have one in stock. WeBuild has 100 of these in stock. You call, it's on the next plane or next train or next truck here.
Wow. So you guys are doing basically repair maintenance
Correct.
As well.
And we inventory it all. We also do value engineering where you'll say, this is the way I want my shop to be. And we'll say, well, listen, we can do that. But if we change this material for this material, I can bring your cost down 6%. And the look's the same and the quality's the same. So we'll value engineer with you. And we become your back-of-house construction, design, fabrication, and installation department.
How long does a typical build-out, a new build-out cost? Or I'm sorry, not cost, but timeline-wise, what does that typically take?
When you say new build-out, you mean the second gen that we're just taking over?
Yeah,
ground up.
Let's say that this franchisee's found a new spot to lease. Let's just call it EverBowl. New location, but this location was previously, I don't know, something different. How long would that build out take from start to finish, assuming that you have all the materials you need?
Well, we always have the materials. When WeBuild shows up, we show up on a Monday, we leave on a Friday. So we're there for 3 days.
And they can open doors that next Saturday.
Assuming they're ready, the health department will come. We do all the health plans. So when we leave on Friday, it's ready for the health department. They come, assuming you have it scheduled. If they can come that Friday, yes, they'll approve you're ready to open on Saturday. And it's that quick. The things that slow it down is if we have to install a restroom or ADA problems, because a lot of times those are out of our control. We have to go through the city permitting. So wherever your jurisdiction is, every county in America has its own permit rules. Assuming we get through all that, if it's a second-gen food place of any kind, where it was previously a restaurant, we can do it in 5 days.
What do you guys do? I mean, because I can imagine the appetite and demand for a product and a service like this has got to be tremendous. Especially you guys are doing all over the country, right?
Yes.
So what do you guys do if you have 10 franchisees that are like, hey, I need this build out in the same week? What do you guys do there?
Well, the good news there is number one, it never happens that fast. You know in advance. Because this is the other thing we offer everyone. Before you sign a lease, so if you want to open a gym, let's say you have a new gym concept, and you go and you're ready. Before you even sign the lease, I will give you to the penny how much it's going to cost. And you'll have designs, you'll have everything. So when you sign the lease, you know exactly what your build out's going to cost, when we're going to do it, and when it'll be done. So we have a lot of leadway, and it's not like tomorrow 10 people come and say, hey, it's all tomorrow, because you have to sign a lease, you have to negotiate, we have to design it, you have to approve it. So there's a process in there so we can kind of stack it. But what we are doing is we're building a new facility in Atlanta for WeBuild. We're also building a big facility in Vegas. So we'll have San Diego, Vegas, and Atlanta with our WeBuild facilities, and then 2 more coming. We haven't picked our geographic locations yet, but because we're building so much in Middle America and East Coast, we're expanding our footprint. And so when that day comes where we need to do 10 in 1 week, we'll be able to, because we're going to build to scale. I mean, we are inundated right now with WeBuild potential customers. I mean, every brand we talk to that spends 5 minutes to understand what we can provide and what our value proposition is ready to do business with us. Not because it's just no one else has really demonstrated the ability to do what we're talking about, because they're either a construction company or they're a franchise. We're one of the few that is both. And so I understand what the franchisor's problems are. I understand what the franchisee's problems are. I speak to them because I did it for EverBowl. I have my proof is look what we did for EverBowl. Now look what we're doing for Shaq. You know, we built his Mocatia, Washington store and his Las Vegas store and his Rosemont, Illinois store and his Chicago store. And we're building in his Houston. And I mean, we're scaling with him, and he's recognizing the power, right? And then the Capriottis and the Wing Zones of the world, we're building for them. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you guys can solve these problems for us that we deal with every single time, which is finding a general contractor locally, hoping that the subs understand. And here's the thing, it sounds simple.
Well, there's also the trust factor, because, you know, as a real estate investor, we do a lot of heavy renovations, right? And so, you know, especially if it's not local and now you're managing a renovation out of state, there's so many wrinkles baked in there, especially for someone that's maybe a new real estate investor to go take on their first renovation. It's out of state. There's a lot of different things that can go wrong, especially because there's so many bad contractors out there. Timeline, budget, and even worse than that, you know, you could bring on the wrong contractor and they just disappear on you. And so, you know, same thing with this model, the brand new franchisee that's got to do a build out. If they don't have someone they trust in there, that's massive. And so the fact that you're bringing this is huge.
And brand continuity, because people fail to understand when you say black, you know how many shades of black there are? You say white, you know how many shades of white paint there are? Do you know how many colors of stain there are? You tell me, hey, this needs to be wood. What kind of wood? What thickness? What cut? What shape? You leave it to each general contractor's own view of what brand. I mean, 2 brands of the same color stain are going to look very different on the same piece of wood. It just is. So when you want to have continuity, when you think of McDonald's, when you want every McDonald's to look and feel the same, every Starbucks to look and feel the same, we ensure that because we use the same product everywhere. So also when some piece of wood falls off of an EverBowl that was built 2 years ago, good luck trying to replace that. You put a new piece of stain on there, it's going to look out of place, and you have to replace the entire wall. I'm going to save you a ton of money because I have that exact stain on that exact piece of wood, and it's sitting there, and it's going to go in, and it's going to look perfect. And that is the other piece, which isn't talked about or understood until you deal with it. And it's one of the things, like as a franchisor, I dealt with, because I would send a franchisee and say, "Oh, I have black stain. What brand?" It's not the same. It's just not. And if you ever built a house or in real estate, you know, like, say white. How many colors of white paint are there? Go to a paint store, and they all look different on the material you put it on. And so that's where this WeBuild opportunity for a lot of brands is so unique, because we basically become a department of your organization. We inventory all your assets. Everyone buys from us. You know the pricing. You know the timing. It's always available. It's always on stock. We float it. We build it. We warranty it. We fix it.
Yeah. So between EverBowl and WeBuild, in your estimation, which one has the potential to be the bigger of the two?
How do you determine bigger?
I'm going to say, you know,
annual revenue or exit?
Exit.
EverBowl will be bigger.
Okay.
Because it's recurring revenue. So you take a franchise system like an EverBowl. This is why a lot of people franchise. The exit valuation on these things is very, very, very nice. So a high growth brand, we'll take a crumble cookie. they could probably sell right now for 25 to 50 times their recurring revenue EBITDA. So if they're making $10 million a year in profit off their stores, just picking a number, they could sell for 250 to 500 million. They're doing more than that and they're worth over $1 billion, but I just used it for easy math. A company like WeBuild, while it's a higher per year cash flow business, which means distribution checks will be higher and it's more like an ATM machine as an entrepreneur and for investors, exit isn't as high because once I build your 200 big chickens or your 200 EverBowls, unless I go, you sell 200 more or I go find another big chicken or an EverBowl client, there's no recurring revenue. It's one and done. So those sense. Trade more 3 to 8 times. So the same $10 million a year business of Crumble will sell for 250 to 500. 10 million at WeBuild might sell for 30 to 80 million. Still a great exit. The difference is between now and 10 million, I don't have to reinvest as much money into WeBuild as I would at Crumble with support staff and marketing and new departments and to support and travel and QSRs and QBCs and all the different whatever abbreviations they use internally. Each model is different. So I like them both for my sake because they attack different things, and I like exits, but I also like cash flow. Right? Yeah. Like what's long-term hold, short-term
what's your vision, over the next, and maybe you don't know. People ask me all the time, like, hey, what's your 5-10 year vision? I'm not even thinking past a year, right? And I say that because, I think what I want today, 5 years from now, is going to be different when I get there. Mm-hmm. And if it's not different, that means I'm not growing, right? But all I'd say is like, what is your vision? If I'm asking Jeff today, what is your vision kind of long-term for both of these companies?
Well, for EverBowl, I want it to be a forever name. Like I want it to be as big as any of the brands that we all know. So I want to be in every state, and I want to be a household name, a legacy name where I may not be involved anymore, but I want my grandkids to go, my grandfather, he started that thing, and everyone knows what it is. Like I think that would be fun from a legacy perspective. And I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wasn't good enough. And so you think of the Hall of Fame, right? And 1% of franchises ever get 100 locations. And 1% of those ever get over 500 locations. Like there's only 390 In-N-Outs, for example. So
is In-N-Out a franchise?
No, but I'm saying they don't even, to get over 500 locations of a restaurant chain is hard, really hard. And I look at the fact that I've invested so much blood, sweat, and tears and energy into building this thing. Why don't I want to leave my mark on the world and know like, hey, this is my Hall of Fame opportunity. Like I want to make if I was a professional athlete, I want to make the Hall of Fame. So in business, I want to do that. And part of that is also the exits because I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I'm evaluated, and no one's evaluating me. I self-evaluate myself comparatively to, Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and some of the biggest entrepreneur names we know. Well, okay. Am I going to get to the $100 billion? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not going to put myself down and say I can't, but I don't see the path there currently. But I've had 6-figure exits and 7-figure exits and 8-figure exits. Can I get 9 and 10-figure exits? Because that means I'm returning my investors a healthy return and I'm doing good by them as the fiduciary and doing my job as the CEO and a startup guy. Yeah, that's part of what I want to do. So my goal with EverBowl originally was to sell in 5 to 7 years from start. And I'll be 7 years old in about 2 months here. So what changed is I hired this incredible president, Trevor Sacco. He's taking us to the next level. And he's allowing me to focus on the startup space again with WeBuild and put my energy and effort more into WeBuild and help grow EverBowl where I'm really good. But EverBowl outgrew my true skill set. I'm a startup entrepreneur. I'm not the guy you hire to go work at Google today. Yeah. I'm the guy Google hires to come up with an idea in a room like me and you are sitting here and you want to go from 0 to hero. I'm good. But then once we hit certain size, somebody better and more capable than me who have the better skill set should take it. So Trevor's given me a longer runway with EverBowl, and we're going to go grow this thing now even bigger together. Him doing most of the strategic smart stuff and me there to be the director of high fives and hugs. And I'm focusing on growing WeBuild into, my goal is a 9-figure a year business. I want $100 million a year in sales through WeBuild. And I want to be part of the next group of EverBowls out there and help them become all in the top 1% of the top 1% and get to that 500 mark. And I think we can provide such a unique opportunity for them that they don't realize it yet. But once they see it, they can't unsee it, right? So I get to be part of their story. I get to help Shaq achieve this goal that is so hard to accomplish, but I can help him do it because we're adding value. And so my goal is to grow these two companies, make a lot of money, help a lot of people, hire a lot of people, and spend, my youngest daughter, she's 11. She'll be 12 here in about a month or two. And I always said, I want to work my ass off until all my kids are 18. My oldest is a freshman in college. So once my youngest turns 18, see what's left on the playing field and decide from there. I'm 40, so I can't go forever.
I love that, man. What I was just thinking right now is I think the biggest takeaway from your whole story, and it's very impressive, what you've built, but the biggest takeaway is like early in this podcast, you mentioned, we're talking about experience in starting your first store. It's like, man, like, a lot of people are like, they think they need a lot of experience to start their own store. And they're like, hey, the time's not perfect. The timing's not right. Let me go educate myself more. And maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years go by and they still haven't started that first store because they don't think they're ready.
Right.
But in this short amount of time, I mean, you said it's been 6.5, almost 7 years from when you started that first store. And look what you built now. I mean, you have all these locations, franchise model. You got Drew Brees has 140 of them. And then you got the WeBuild, which was a product of, you had identified a problem with your own model, and now you got this other company as like a byproduct of it, and you're doing stuff with Shaq and all this sort of stuff. And I guess the takeaway for me is like, man, like the timing is never going to be perfect to start anything, and sometimes you just got to get in and go. And as a function of that, I mean, look at everything that you've built since then versus that other person that maybe hadn't even started yet 7 years in.
It's incredible how many incredible ideas never happen because tomorrow never comes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait till tomorrow. Do something today. Like anything is fine. Just one micro step towards your goal. Start it. And you figure it out as you go. And I mean, it doesn't mean everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur and start their own company. That's not what I mean. You can do it working for a company, because I think the mistake we are making in society right now is we're glorifying entrepreneurship. Most people are not cut out to start from zero a company and grow and scale it. It's just the reality. Just like most people are not meant to be a surgeon. Most people are not meant to be an NFL quarterback. Most people are not meant to be an actor. Most people are not meant to be an accountant. Most people are not meant to be a teacher or a policeman or a fireman. We all have our skills, right? What is required of an entrepreneur, a true start from nothing entrepreneur, it's not easy. It's not easy to be any of these professions. And if you don't have the right makeup for it, I'm not saying you shouldn't try it, because if it's really what you want to do, you should go do it, and maybe you'll figure it out. But it's like, I'm not meant to be an accountant or a doctor or a lawyer, even though I went to law school. Like, I knew really quickly, like, that's just not who I am. It's not in my DNA. I could fake it, and I could kind of hate my job and battle through it, but I'm going to look at all the negatives. Because the reality is, if you're not willing to make those sacrifices to be that startup entrepreneur, you could be an entrepreneurial-minded number 2, number 3, number 12, number 80 at a company. And the person at Google right now or Apple who's working on the next innovations on the next iPhone, that's just as exciting as if they would have started their own phone company. They're going to see the fruit of their mind and their ideas populate into the world on the iPhone, whatever number we're on, 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the people who are working at Elon Musk's at Tesla and coming up with new features on these electric cars, they're seeing that result in the world. That's just as exciting to me. If you have that capability, then trying to start a competitor to Elon Musk. Sometimes joining together and letting Elon be the guy who has to deal with all the criticism and the capital raising and the investor relations and the bigger stuff. If that's not where you really feel good, you're really good at creating that stuff inside, work with Elon and get it done. And now you still get all the benefits. So I say entrepreneur, but I don't just mean people who start companies. I do mean people inside of departments, inside of divisions, who work for companies. You should be an entrepreneurial minded number, whatever, and an employee if you're an employee, or if you really want to start your own thing, go do it. What are you waiting for? Like, the time is now. And if you're not already doing it, I challenge you, then maybe you weren't meant to do that. You need to be doing something along that side. Like, there can only be one quarterback. It doesn't mean a left tackle isn't part of the team and doesn't get the Super Bowl ring. They do.
Right. What do you think, in your estimation, from a business perspective? Because I know on the real estate investing side, the two most important things on the real estate investing side is access to deals and money. So if you can find good deals and you have the ability to raise money, you can build a large portfolio. Everything else you can delegate out. Now, on the business side, if you could pick one or two things that are like the most important levers, what are those two levers?
As an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur on the business side, not real estate investing, but starting a business,
running a business,
as an entrepreneur. Yes.
Yeah. Well, number one, if you're raising capital in entrepreneurship, it's understanding that the second you raise money, and this is where I see a lot of entrepreneurs make mistakes. I have EverBowl. When I self-funded it, I work for EverBowl. The day I take your money, I don't work for EverBowl anymore. I represent you to EverBowl. My job is to get you a return on capital. That's my job the second I take your money. And so my job changed. And I don't see a lot of entrepreneurs make that transition. They think because I invest in their company that they still need to make EverBowl their main thing. No, I gave you my hard-earned money. So if I invest in you at EverBowl, I expect you to get me that return. And that should be your focus. So you have to make decisions that are different. Because if it's just my company, I can stand and be stubborn and say, hey, I don't care if we lose customers. This is what I believe in. This is what we're doing. The second I take your money, I don't get that privilege anymore. I have to do what is best for the return on cash that I took from investors because they're investors. So it just changes the job. And so I think what people who are looking to raise money need to realize is think hard and long if you want to take money, because it doesn't allow you the freedom, or it shouldn't allow you the freedom to operate the business as a solopreneur the way you used to. So that's number one. And number two is the sacrifice. And I think everyone in their industry would talk about how that industry requires certain sacrifices. I just don't think people realize with entrepreneurship, it is a 24/7, 365 challenge. When I'm in the shower, I could be thinking about a song, I could be thinking about my kids, or I could be thinking about my business. If I'm not thinking about my business, my competitor is. Someone is in there and I'm thinking about how I can run WeBuild and EverBowl and Unevolved Studios and products and the Jeff Fenster show and all the stuff, speaking engagements, like it's always through my head. So sometimes I'm not always present, even when I'm with my family or my friends or at a social gathering, because I'm focusing on all this business stuff. And it's not because I only care about money. It's the furthest from the truth. I'm so passionate about it. I love it so much. I don't want to turn it off. Just like I don't want to stop playing with my daughter when I'm playing with her. It's not like, oh, is it almost time for me to stop playing with my kid? I don't think that way. I love hanging out with my daughter. So it's the same with my business. If you don't have that kind of a love and affinity for what you're doing, it's a job, and just treat it like a job and work for somebody or with people so you don't have to take that responsibility on, because there's no game clock. It doesn't end.
Right. And I think for most entrepreneurs, the reason why they're obsessed is the same reason to why they're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. I think if you're obsessed and you never give up, that's 90% of the battle right there. And for a lot of the ones that do give up, it's, often it's because they're not obsessed with the craft. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Hey, I want to switch gears a little bit here. I know before we started recording, you mentioned that you invest in real estate. So what are you doing in the real estate side?
I have a lot of friends that have done exceptionally well in real estate. And I in college, I majored in regional development. My plan was to flip homes. And I bought my first flip right out of college in 2006, and 2008 got wiped out because I didn't know what I was doing. So I shelved the whole real estate thing. And I own a few houses that I rent from my in-laws and stuff, simple things. Well, 2022, I decided, you know what? It's time for me to start to leverage the fact that I have all these friends that do so well in real estate. Why am I not investing my cash in these opportunities? Why am I not participating? Why am I not giving them my money and syndicating? Why don't I start to accumulate real estate? Because in 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, my estate is going to be worth so much more, because you look at all the wealthiest humans on the planet, and most of them have a pretty large real estate portfolio at the end. They're not making more of it. Everyone needs a home, and it's a good long-term return if you can deal with the short-term variances and the problems. So I started to do some homework, and a friend of mine, Than Merrill, he's pretty smart in this space, and I had him on my show, and we did an episode together, and Jimmy Rex and Cole Hatter and Ryan Pineda and Tariq Al-Musa, and just some friends that are really big in real estate. And I started to ask them, you talk about how do you pick their brain. I started to do it with value. I said, come on my show. Let's talk about you being the expert, expose you to my audience, and I get to learn. And I just started being a sponge and asking questions and learning. And so, Jimmy Rex, he gave me a line that said, if you're going to buy single family, make sure for every $100,000 of purchase price, make $100 a month in rental income. Simple rule. Like, okay, well, I believe experience is it's earned. You can't read about it. Eventually you have to try. So I bought a few homes. I was buying them. I narrowed down my target for myself, not money I invest with others, like your deals. Like I'd happily give you a check and invest alongside your brilliance and your niche and your knowledge. I don't know that space.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. But like for my personal portfolio that I'm going to self-manage and own and operate, like what do I want to do? And so like all things, if you aim small, you miss small. If you aim too big, you miss big. You can't be everything. So I said, okay, I want to own real estate in warm states because I don't want to deal with frozen tundras and roofs and all that. I think it's hard wear and tear. My family's from Canada, and I see the effect of that. I want red or purple states, not because, even though I live in California, I want understandable tenant rules and laws, and I want it to be more landlord focused, where I don't get screwed just because I'm the victim of, a tenant that is exploiting some loophole in the laws, the local laws. And I want college kids because I don't want people who are planning on living in the house forever. I want a steady turnover. And my daughter's going into her freshman year, and I was going to buy something for her. So I was like, this is a good opportunity. Let's do that. So she went to Ole Miss, and I bought 4 houses in Ole Miss. Because one, I wasn't going to learn as much. I'm a high velocity guy. Like I said at the beginning, I don't do things small. So I was like, I'm going to learn with 4. So I bought those 4, and they all got rented by college kids, and I was cash flowing day one. And I was like, this is cool. And then I was visiting, we did a tour of Athens for my daughter when she was looking at University of Georgia, and I saw a similar market. So I started to buy some houses there. So I bought 4 there. So I had 8. And I was like, okay, 8 seems like in 2 different cities on the other side of the country. If I can make this work, I can scale this thing.
For sure.
And so I tried it, and it started to work out really well. And then my wife said, we need a place near Ole Miss where we can go stay. Because you have these 4 houses, but they're all rented to long-term college kids. So I was like, well, this short-term rental thing's kind of picking up steam. So I bought a condo, and I was like, let's Airbnb it. And when we want to go, we just block the dates. And so I bought one of those, and I'm toying with that right now, kind of learning how the Airbnb stuff works. And it's challenging. I only have one of those. I don't like it as much personally. Like, I want to hire a manager to do it. But in Oxford, they want 30%. And I was doing the math, and they gave me their report. Like, the 2 companies I interviewed to take it on, they both gave me their projections. And I was going to lose money on both of them. So I was like, well, this doesn't check.
No.
So
how much will that property in ballpark gross per year?
The Airbnb?
Yeah.
So the Ole Miss football games, I can rent it for the 3-night minimum of those games, and it'll rent for about $1,200 a night.
Wow.
So
is it a 3-bedroom condo?
2-bedroom.
Wow.
2-bedroom, 2-bath. But it's a college town with not a lot of infrastructure to support all the people who come for these big football games, and this is the SEC. So this is like football America, college football in America, and Georgia comes, and Alabama, and all these big schools. And so I think I could probably rent it out $20,000 a year, $25,000 a year if I don't.
Just for those big weekends.
Yeah, weekends, graduation, move in, like all the big college events.
Right.
I don't know how it'll do the rest of the time. Like, they gave me a report and said it'll be about $35,000 if they let them manage it. So I shut it down $10,000 because I'm not an expert. So I got to figure I'm not going to be as good as they are. I don't have the marketing arm. I don't have the know-how, but I'm not paying them 30% either. So net, it's probably going to end up being about the same. Long-term, I'll probably hire someone. And then through that process, I started realizing that single family is a lot of work. And another friend of mine, James Brennan, he basically said, hey, you realize the same amount of work on a single family, you could do multifamily. And it starts to compound that way. And so I was like, okay, well, let's try this simultaneously and see what fits for me. So I bought a 6-unit, and then I bought 3 duplexes as well. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to manage these multifamilies.
Nice.
And so that's kind of been where I'm at right now. And now I'm taking a pause because I just closed on my last one. We're in, what are we in, September now?
Yeah. I don't know how it's already September.
I know. I was going to say, I think I closed the week before July 4th on my last property. So I've now owned them all for 2 months. But I've been buying them for the last year. So I've owned some of them for almost a year and some of them. But I'm going to run it for a year, and I'm going to see how I do P&L wise. And I'm going to continue to invest in syndicated deals with friends like your opportunities and other opportunities, and build the real estate portfolio, and slowly but surely see if we can't build this, like what you see, some of these really wealthy, you got to start to understand, how do you use your money? And I think cash is, not to take the truism, but I think cash is trash in a way, because
it is. I mean, if you look at inflation.
Yeah, I mean, inflation, debasement, and where that's going. I think the fact of what you end up, I have a wife and 2 daughters, so cash gets spent. Investments are making me money. And true freedom to me, true success, success is unique. I don't need to be a billionaire. I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need to be a thousandaire. I never put a number on it. What I need to be is free. Free to do what I want, when I want, how I want. And if I want to move my family to Nicaragua tomorrow, Brazil, Paris, Beverly Hills, or come hang out with you all day, I want to be able to do that. And that to me means I need a certain level of wealth. I'm really good at making money when I'm trading my time for it. I want to get really good at making money when my time is not required. And real estate gives you that option. You know, I do a lot in crypto. I own a lot of Bitcoin. I'm a big Bitcoin guy. I own stocks. So I invested. You know, the stock market to me is more of a hedge against inflation. It kind of goes up and down with inflation and debasement. So it's just a good place to be. And I think everyone should have their money working for them. But I think real estate will give me what I learned from Than Merrill was the different pillars of profit centers that owning real estate has, in addition to cash flowing from rental income and long-term appreciation from the actual asset increasing, the tax write-offs that come, which, you know, that starts to open your eyes when you realize what power comes with that. The fact that you can use leverage.
Right. And then you do these cash out refinances when these assets go up over time. And then that money is tax deferred and you put that down on more real estate and then it starts to compound. But I hear you, man. I think as any, successful entrepreneur, it's like you got a few options with what you're going to do with your money. It's like, do you reinvest into your business, grow that? Do you maybe take that money and invest into another startup? Or you do a lot of folks do, and they start parking their money into real estate.
Yeah. And there's so many fun asset classes like I'm learning in real estate, from land development deals to storage facilities to
there's 100 ways to do it.
There's so, and then you learn about wholesaling and you learn about all the different transactional ways to do it. And again, I think it's a matter of, it's so cool because when you really open up Pandora's box of real estate, you can find, just like we were talking about, what's your personality type? You can find the right real estate investing for your personality type. And what I love about real estate more than investing in companies, investing in the stock market, investing in Bitcoin, is it is a community style investment opportunity like yourself with your syndicated deals and all of my friends who do it. I don't have to be the expert. I don't have to go put my money in a mutual fund or in a ETF and have it sit there. Like, I can give you money and own a part of a hotel and know that you win and I win together. And you're out there killing it with your team because you guys are experts and I can participate and I get to own a part of a hotel. Like, who didn't play Monopoly and want to own a hotel?
Yeah, right.
That's just fun. And just knowing that you're owning a piece of this thing and it's growing and appreciating. And everyone knows, like, go back 20 years, look at the price of any piece of real estate in America. Congratulations, you made money. Right?
Yeah. And also I think like there's some feel good about, taking an old rundown building that's been, has deferred maintenance. Maybe it's been neglected by the prior ownership and, maybe kind of an eyesore to that neighborhood. And then you put money into it, you make it beautiful again. So a little feel good about that, from a neighborhood perspective as well. Like this building that we're sitting in right now, this is a 120-year-old building. And you can tell by like some of these archways and the exposed brick, that this building's been around for a while. They used to manufacture stuff here back since the early 1900s. And so it's cool to see how this building, was built to manufacture a product. But now it's still operating, right? Yeah. It's still making money 120 years later, not doing what it was initially built to be doing.
And I think what's even also cooler is, and I don't do this you invest with me at EverBowl, I do not do this, but you do. And a lot of the top real estate guys do is you educate as well, which means you understand, like, listen, I'll teach you how to fish. I'll let you invest with me and I'll do the fishing. And I'll also show you where to go fish. And you basically create this environment where, like, by following you and learning from you, I get exposed to so many different ways to be successful in real estate where I might say, you know what, I want to do this on my own. And you're okay with that. And that's what's so fun. Like, you want to invest in EverBowl, you can give me money and I'll grow the company. I'm not teaching you how to open EverBowls. I'm not showing you how to be successful in business. Like, this is, you invest with my company or go find another entrepreneur to do it with. In the real estate space, all the top entrepreneurs focus on education as well as investing opportunities, as well as just you teach, you show, and you offer. And I can participate whatever level I want. And I love that about the real estate space, which is so unique comparatively to most other industries.
Dude, it's true. It's true that you said that. And it's something that I don't think about a whole lot, but you're right. I tell all my investors, I'm like, look, they invest passively. I'm going to protect their money with everything that I have because I want to be able to sleep good at night, but I also want to take care of them. But at the same time, I also understand that they have, real estate investing goals as well. Maybe they want to build their own portfolio. Maybe they want to learn how to do it themselves. And so I always tell any of my investors as an investor, like, I will treat you like family. And if you guys have any personal questions on your own real estate strategy, I'm always very generous to hop on and help them out in any way I can, and I'll always root for them.
And that's what I love. That's been my favorite thing over the last 2 years, really getting more involved in real estate is you're being genuine. You're not saying that for the camera. Like that's truly who you are. And that's true for the space, for the top guys. And it's because there's so much real estate and so much opportunities. I mean, you're in 10 markets, even if I was in the same market as you, how many homes are there in opportunities in San Diego, California, us competing would just, the chances are minuscule. And more likely, if we ended up competing, we would just partner. I'd end up just giving you my money because I want the passive investment. Oh, okay, I'll find another one.
Right.
It's just the best way to do it.
And I think it's easy for us real estate investors to feel like, man, everyone's doing it, because a lot of the folks that we talk to, we hang out with are all investing in real estate. So sometimes it can feel a little competitive, but when you take a step back, you actually look at, the 330 million people in America, right. The percentage of that 330 million that actually invest in real estate is so minuscule that it's like, no, that's why I have that mentality. I'm like, you know what? Everyone can win.
Right. And I used to eat my own dog food 2 years ago when I said, all right, I'm going to start investing in real estate. And I started learning and following some people and talking to some friends. And I was like, gosh, how do you find a good deal? Everyone is doing this. It must be hard. Fast forward in a year, I've bought in 13 different properties that I think are good opportunities. I've had friends vet, and I'm not even living in these cities, which means if I devoted some serious effort to just finding opportunities, because this is my only thing, there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much available that you need to educate yourself and come with competency and partner with. I give money to my friends' deals also because you also get to learn that way, even if they're not forthcoming like you are and a few others, but I get to be part of it. I get to understand why did we invest in this piece of real estate? What is the thesis? What is the reason? And as an investor, you're going to share it with me. I'm going to invest. I'm going to be part of it. We're going to win together. And I'm going to be like, okay, do that a few times for the next few years until I'm ready to do it myself. If I'm ever want to do it myself, I don't want to be a full-time real estate guy. I like passive. I want to manage a little bit because I just wanted to learn. Like I said, I like to just do things. I think that's how you gain experience. But for everyone listening, real estate is something everyone should be participating in. It is most people's biggest source of wealth, in even teachers or doctors, you name it, ends up being their personal residence. My dad bought his house. He was a doctor for 30 years at Kaiser, made 200 to 400 grand a year. I don't know what he made, but somewhere around there. He wasn't making millions of dollars, but he's making a good living. He bought a house in 1985 for 200 grand. It's worth 2.7 million today, only because of time.
Yeah,
right?
Time, inflation. They're not building more of it.
Right. So in 35 years, he's made $2.5 million on the side.
Yeah.
In a house that he had to live in anyway.
They say 90% of all millionaires are created through real estate. It's like, dude, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
There you go. That's right.
Jeff, I appreciate you coming on, my man. Definitely truly inspired by everything you're doing. And I'm a big fan of everything you're doing. I'm looking forward to see kind of where you go next with it.
Well, thank you, man. I'm a fan of you and your show. And it's awesome to come down here and hang. I'm going to hold you to coming up and coming on my show, an episode of my show as well.
Dude, I got to come up, man. I got to check out the Unevolved Studio.
Yes.
Where is it at?
Carlsbad.
Yeah,
well, technically Vista Carlsbad, right off Palomar Airport Road in San Diego. And you'll get to see WeBuild, the EverBowl HQ, give you some food samples, feed you.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Let's make it happen. And dude, I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.